Welcome back to Game 2 between MetaFalcon team and Frank Esports. We saw in the first game, Frank Esports beating down the younger squad with a lot more solid fundamentals. But going into this one, maybe MetaFalcon team will have something different up their sleeve as they swap over towards the red side. Before we dive deeper into the matchup, a big thank you to our sponsors in CTBC Bank and Caliber, and of course to our organizers at Riot Games, Carry Live Co. and Garena. Now, Frank, we're coming into Game 2, and as you know about Best of 5, a lot of adjustments can be made, need to be made. What do you expect from MetaFalcon?
Well, they are swapping over to the red side, so hopefully we see a little bit more focus on making sure Taco is able to get ahead. Even in that previous game, yes, you had the Camille in the top lane, but 665 continued to play towards the mid and bot half of his map. So I'd like for him to shift some attention up towards top lane and just really get an advantage for Taco that he's able to then snowball into a 1v1 advantage.
Now here's my question for you on Taco. What has been your favorite
Mordekaiser?
Oh, okay, you already know what I'm gonna ask. You're supposed to let me finish the question though. What is your favorite Taco out there champion? Why is it Mort though? I thought he lost on the Mordekaiser.
No, I just said more just to... I know you don't have good memories of that game.
You're tilting me.
I just said it just because, but I mean, Taco...
He's played 13 different champions, by the way.
He's played a lot of champions. I think the Sylas has been the really cool one in those moments. I think Sylas potentially could show its head in this series as well, because if Kurt's going to lock in Gnar, well, Sylas has a solid matchup into the Gnar, but it's all about these mid-game powers, right? Where he's just a better Gnar in these fights. So I think Sylas could very well show its head in this game. We could also see the Sejuani. I like the look of the Sejuani yesterday. But I think when it comes to some of these adjustments, maybe look at taking away this Nautilus pick, because the amount of times they just kept getting caught out was just unreal. And that's not a thing about Nautilus. It's more about their positioning. But if you can't fix that, just take away the Nautilus.
All right, we'll see if they heed your advice here as they, interesting enough, take away the Lee Sin. We can actually get to see that much of the Lee Sin, but they definitely consider it a threat. Frank Esports, on the other hand, they're just going to stick with the same three bans over once more. The Graves, of course, Wen's Galio, and Ari now being targeted out for Pretender. Pretender still has a whole host of champions here, but if we're going down kind of the power picks, you know, the Jinxes are still up, and whoa, this is interesting. Are we going to get a series with double Viego first picks?
Oh, that could be it, because the Lee Sin did get taken off the table, and Hollow, I mean, his second most played champion is that Viego pick. Yes, he's played a lot of Xin, but Xin, I think 665 is very happy in picking a slew of champions against that pick, because it allows him to kind of farm up and do his thing. Now MFT, we'll see what they go for. I would expect to see a 665 champion on this rotation. And there we go. It's going to be the Nocturne. Nocturne, a pick I definitely do not like early on in a draft. Just because I think you need to see their composition in order to pick the Nocturne to actually be effective.
Yeah, he is a very much dive champion. Maybe they're thinking that Frank Esports always have Eminem on hyper carry, so diving in is always going to end up profiting, but I agree with you. It's definitely not a champion you see very often locked in the first rotation for sure. On the other hand, Frank Esports will just go with the Aphelios, you know, not going to walk into the Jinx matchup here, and this could be their chance to snag the Nautilus once again. You have mentioned just the ability for K2 to find those picks. He was great in catching out rotations here. It does look like they will go for a very similar idea, but this time it will be the Leona instead.
Yeah, it almost feels like they want to deny the Leona away from MFT rather than just go back onto the Nautilus. And MFT see how they end this first phase. Of course, they could opt for a Wen champion, something like a... Okay, I was going to suggest maybe the Rise comes through, but instead it's going to be the Braum. I don't hate the Braum here because it allows you to play very defensive in this bottom lane, and Whale, Renhao have done very well when it comes to the lane phase, given the opportunity to play out the lane. It's, but perhaps this does mean we are going to focus more attention towards that top side because, you know, when you have Braum, you'd like to play a little bit more weak side, unless if 665 just chain ganks because he sees he has a Braum stun.
I just want to ask you, what's the best top laner to go in with Anomalous? I completely agree with your assessments. This looks like MFT just saying, okay, bot side, just don't do anything. We've got late game. You guys just wait there. We're just going to snowball against Kurt 24/7. What do you think the best champion is with the Naughty? Not with the Naughty. I'm sorry, with the Nocturne.
I mean, I would love to see an opportunity to maybe see something like a Fiora, just something that can just hard farm, especially when you know you're up against an Aphelios who's a somewhat low range AD carry. Yes, he pumps out a lot of damage, but he doesn't necessarily have that extra kite ability against a Fiora that a Jinx might have. If you have A, your traps, and B, if you get excited, then you have that extra burst of movement speed to extend the distance. So MFT, we'll see what they go for here. I would expect to see a Wen champion, and it will be the Zoe picked up, which we saw yesterday. To mixed results, I would say.
Yeah, it did get some good ganks off early game, but we haven't really seen Wen snowball this champion to the point to really make this pick worth it. I think that's the biggest issue. We haven't seen it throughout the entire regular season, and he's not going to be having a lot of support from the jungle early on in this Nocturne either. So I kind of read this as Wen being a little bit cornered. I wonder if you agree with that.
Yeah, it seems like they want some sort of mid champion without the Rise that can shove the lane early on. But again, making rotations as a Zoe can be very, very dangerous. So Frank Esports, they go ahead, lock in the LeBlanc, and they go for the blind pick Gnar. So now it's up to Taco really to decide how he wants to play this top lane. He doesn't have the Camille available to him. He doesn't have the Tryndamere as well. But everything else is on the table. So there we go.
Here we go.
The Sylas.
The Sylas once again, and this is the champion where MFT actually took down Frank Esports, and it was very much the same strategy. You just go top lane, you collect your 300 gold, you treat Kurt like an ATM, and you pay him a lot of visits. So we'll see if the same strategy will work out here again. On the other side for Frank Esports, this comp looks kind of similar to what MFT were playing back in the previous game. Looking at this LeBlanc and Diego, that looks damn scary.
Yeah, it's a lot of kill pressure in that mid jungle 2v2. Also has a lot of gank pressure early on to something like a Zoe, who is immobile before level 6, and even level 6 pretty telegraphed in where he's going to be making his plays, right? So the side of Frank Esports, I think they should play around mid jungle a little bit more this game. But obviously, when you have a Leona, when you have an Aphelios down in that bot lane, and you have K2 and Eminem, namely, you're going to invest a lot of time and resources to try and get them ahead.
Okay, so we do have walking into the Rift here, Frank Esports likely with some sort of a lead pre-6, as you've mentioned, the Viego and the LeBlanc, a lot of kill threat right there. They're probably going to dominate that lane. And for MFT, I guess my biggest question is, if the top lane chain gank thing doesn't happen, like, what does this comp do?
It's got decent range with a Zoe and a Xayah, but face checking bushes is not going to be easy. Okay.
I'm just gonna take that answer as they have to chain gank top. as we head into the Rift right here. This is the PCS playoffs. We are starting in the lower bracket between FAK Esports, Meta Falcon team. Game 2 with Frank already taking down Game 1 right here. This is the best of 5. As we head on to the Rift, we're going to be taking a look at the Keystone Runes. Taco gonna go for the phase shift right here. So, phase rush, excuse me. So we'll be able to catch up onto Kurt if he gets the chance. We'll just find the strong level 1, E first. And Kurt gets chunked down quite heavily here. Might have to back before coming back to lane.
Yeah, we'll be both top laners just resetting there. And Kurt actually, I'm not sure if he had... Okay, he had a refillable. So him popping that potion was of no consequence there. Otherwise, that could have been pretty detrimental in that instance. But it will be a pretty generic level 1. Nothing happening. No fancy movements. I was a little surprised that we didn't see something come out from Pretender on this LeBlanc. Of course, being able to jump over walls and put deep vision onto the red buff, but instead he goes for a pretty standard, just a raptor ward there.
Yep. Does start out with the distort, so is able to just get that ward in early. Taco will try to go for a strong level 1 trade, but he actually misses out on the chain lash. Excuse me, not the chain lash. The abduct right there, and Kurt gets a massive level 1 trade in. That's 200 HP to nothing.
Yeah, it is going to be a corrupting potion start for Taco. So at the very least, he has decent amount of sustain along with the biscuit. So he is going to have more resources to trade with, but certainly that start is not a great look for Taco, which again, we fully expected Taco to have a pretty large advantage, at least skill-wise, up against Kurt, and so far it has not looked that way.
That has to be so rough for Taco. He tries to dodge the boomerang, walks straight back into it, and then takes another auto attack too. So far, Kurt, he seems to have upped his mastery on this Gnar. You know? We certainly saw him as a bit of a weak point on the side of Frank, but he's not been exposed, or I think he's just playing better today for sure. As we do have a 665 a little bit cautious about walking into his red buff. I can definitely understand that, especially with the lane state in the top side. And this will be Holo just punishing him to the maximum. Will be a 3-buff start here coming in for the Viego, with Kurt even bullying the Nocturne a little bit more.
Yeah, this is actually the maximum greed pathing coming in from a Nocturne to try and you're just like, wait, I swear the red buff was there just a second ago. Now it's gone. But Holo also going to snag away the Scuttle Crab. That's massive here for the side of FAK Esports. So already there's a lot of denial against this Nocturne, and he's going to try and recoup some of it by doing what he does, which is just tax mid.
In the meantime, though, we do have the first Scuttle actually being taken away by FAK Esports. They just walked up and took it. So double Scuttle start again for Frank this game, with the CS, I believe, going over towards Eminem's side. This bottom lane, just looking at the champions, not really expected to win out, especially before the first item purchase here. So just great punish from Frank all across the board. We do see Renhao, getting baited here. He does straight face check into 2 people. Ignite goes down. He holds on to all of his summoners, but a very good punish here coming in from Frank.
Yeah, at the very least, okay, it looks like they still want to be a little bit aggressive, but 665 making his way down. If they get baited a little bit too much, they could get punished. But yeah, taking that trade, not that big of a consequence, because they knew their goal was just to kind of just reset. So having that large wave that they had there allowed them to take a little bit more of a greedy trade that doesn't really matter in the end, because they're just aiming for that reset.
Yeah, however, the back timing should be massively in favor of Eminem as he comes back in here. Is going to get that extra Noon Quiver coming back into lane. I could be seeing Drake actually go down pretty soon. And in the meantime, we do have the trades still going into Kurt's favor, as we just saw a bit of a scuffle right there. And I do like this first buy coming in for him. Getting the Executioner Sword is going to make sure that Kingslayer isn't going to get so much value on the side of Taco right here. We do have some preliminary scouting from Renhao. They know that, you know, because of the back timings, it's very possible that this could be a Drake start. And we do have Renhao roaming across unspotted here. Let's see if he can find some action. Will find Pretender, but misses the Winter's Bite. Here comes K2. Does knock down Wen. Wen has to flash away here. Can he survive? Will be able to pop out and even pop back in for a little bit of damage. So a skirmish won here quite solidly by Frank.
Yeah, and once again, it's FAK Esports finding the skirmish right before they turn their attention towards an objective. So that will be yet another win, and I fully expect them to now turn their attention towards that first dragon. Although it does look like they want to try and zone Whale off of this tower instead. So being able to get 160 gold in solo plate gold is still a noteworthy objective.
Definitely is, and they also deny even more CS from Whale. He was already behind before that.
Yep.
And with Renhao backing, well, he really doesn't have a say in this one. But here comes the MFT bread and butter strategy with this composition. Taco does have access to the Mega Gnar here, regardless of Kurt actually transforming or not. See if he can push this wave in and have 665 go in for the dive. If they don't go in, they're not getting anything back for it. They're just going to be losing out on this Infernal. So I do expect them to have to go in here. Let's see if they find the chance, but no. Oh, Kurt actually keeps the wave out of his own tower. And he is going to be fine here. Taco goes in, but he misses the Mega Gnar, finds the chain though, and he will get the kill down. That was, level up to keep himself alive too. Very much on the edge for Taco, but he makes it work.
Very good heads-up play coming in from Taco to just take that last minion to get the level up, to get the extra HP to stay alive. And now they still have both of their flashes to try and make that play happen once more, once those ultimates come back off of cooldown. So now it is going to be very clear difference of game plan executions. For the side of MFT, it's all about this top half. For the side of FAK Esports, it's all about that bottom half of the map.
It was just a little bit unfortunate for Kurt right there. Got a little bit, you know, greedy there. Threw the boomerang. He's like, you just missed your ult. Shame on you. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm stuck in animation. Gets taken down by the Abduct right afterwards. And now we are going to see Frank actually starting up on this Herald. It's only a 3-man operation here. It's actually a 4-man. Let's see if they can find anybody with these catches. LeBlanc, of course, known for that. It looks like they will get out potentially cleanly. The smite does go over to Holo, but he cannot pick up the Eye of the Herald. Kurt has to back away too. Wen does find a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but only onto Pretender. It looks like MFT will just nullify this Herald play.
Yeah, it's just going to be the gold coming off of killing the Rift Herald, and now they're also going to lose the blue buff. So all in all, the gold trade is actually dead even in that instance. Both of the AD carries don't rotate up to force the issue, and so both of the AD carries just kind of go ahead, farm away at whatever minions they were being offered, and it ends up just being a net zero trade.
But we do have Wen finding some damage onto Pretender. It looks like MFT are trying to muscle them out of this top side here. Lots of wards going down, and the Paranoia is up here for 665. So wonder what Kurt is going to do about this situation. He's just going to straight up back. He's like, nah, I don't want to stay around here. This is a little bit too dangerous for me. I've seen this show before. I know how it goes, and we have both of the solo laners going back.
Yeah, and if you look at this top lane is, I mean, it's even up in this top side, but when you compare them to the rest of the map, they're only really keeping up with their junglers. The other skill positions in the mid lane and in that AD carry bot lane, they are far and away ahead of their top laners in just gold, right? They're about 30 CS up. So when they join their first team fight, they might be in for a surprise with how much damage is coming out of everyone else.
Yeah, we had both top laners joining ganks, getting pulled towards the Herald fight, so they've not been the most focused laners, I would say, this game, and definitely will hurt their development. 665 now still looking for a second angle to pop that paranoia. I do believe that he's running with the Ingenious Hunter, I think. Oh, Ultimate Hunter, I think. So we'll have potential to kind of snowball that one if he does get a couple more takedowns. We still have the double reds onto the top side, so the strategic focus, I think, could not be more obvious on the side of MFT. It's just really about how can Kurt and FAK Esports in general sort of react to this.
Yeah, and if Kurt overstays here, they could just immediately turn onto him, but Taco has the teleport, so I think he wants to get his next purchase in, gets the Lucidity boots as well. Now, here they go.
The preemptive flash will find the fear before the hop lands, and Kurt is just getting chased down. Red buff here on 665, and he gets the easy solo kill. Love that execution coming in from 665 to make sure that he gets a free open lane for his top.
Yeah, love the execution coming in from 665, flashing forward preemptively to make sure even if the flash comes out coming in from Kurt, he's still going to be in tether range. Very well done from him, and now he's going to complete the stride breaker.
Whale will pop his cleanse, be safe in that one. K2 gets stunned up. Eminem walks forward with a huge minion wave, and that should be it for the trade. Ultimate for cleanse trade, still a little bit more favorable for the side for Frank. Eminem now dishing out a lot of damage with the Moonlight Vigil, forces out the Feather Storm from Whale, and that's going to be Frank heading towards uncontested secondary.
Well, you say that.
Yeah,
they're still
uncontested might be a little bit optimistic. And Renhal gets caught out. He will flash away and keep himself alive. We have Wen coming in with the stride breaker, but he doesn't find the target necessarily right in backline. Pretender will just find the kill onto Wen. That's one down, 1-for-1 apiece. Jungler away from Holo most critically, and that does mean that MFT prevent the Drake.
They will be able to prevent the Drake, but for the side of FAK Esports, you still have to favor the trade to them ever so slightly, right? Because now you get a little bit more free time in that mid lane. 665 turning his attention towards this bottom lane. So Eminem, he gets a little bit more farm into himself. Pretender gets a little bit more farm into himself. So all in all, the big carries on FAK Esports, they're the big winners of that trade, even though it is just a 1-for-1.
But have you heard of Fed Nocturne? Maybe that's an angle?
It could be an angle.
Fed Nocturne?
I mean, unfortunately, he's not going for like an assassin sort of build. It's a much more of the more common build we see right now is this bruiser focus.
Yeah, it is.
But the issue is like Aphelios can very easily 1v1 you. It's not like a Jinx where before she gets excited, you can still 1v1 this champion very, very easily. But in Aphelios, when he gets all his farm, that is very, very tall order.
All right, we'll see if the Fed Nocturne comes into it. I just wanted to egg you on because I'm a Nocturne player myself, and I also like getting fed.
I got a lot of free LP off of playing solo lane Nocturne.
Yeah, he pushes the wave quite easily this time around, and we will see if 665 and his build comes into the calculation right here. It actually hasn't backed just yet, so interesting enough is kind of just parking himself as a cruise missile here in the bottom lane. We'll go back, finally gets his boots too, and ooh, that is bad news for Pretender as Holo accidentally takes away the blue buff.
I mean, we all know Diego is one of those champions that is just really, really mana hungry, so glad that he's able to get himself a blue buff. But, I mean, in this mid lane Pretender, it's not going to be... Yes, he's going to miss out on that extra little bit of mana regen, but it's not like Wen has shown himself to be super active in trying to make his way to the side lane, so I think, honestly, he'll be fine.
Alright, we'll see if that is the case here, but we do have a roam from MFT going into this bottom side that has just been shoving nonstop for FAK Esports. See if they can find an actual angle of attack right here. Wen still hasn't seen him be particularly impactful. Everfrost does go down for Pretender. Zanya's coming in for Wen. And he will just get away here. You're very excited about that play for some reason.
You know, the best way to get a blue buff if your jungler takes your blue buff is to just get the blue buff from the other mid lane, you know?
True.
And I think that's what Pretender was looking for right there. Unfortunately, stopwatch exists. However, what it also means is that Wen doesn't have stopwatch. So if he gets picked off before the next dragon, which MFT have done repeatedly, he won't have the stopwatch to buy time. But now it looks like MFT, they're trying to look to make a play over in this mid lane, but that won't come to fruition, and Taco will just kind of walk back up, and maybe they just try and kill Kurt again. Surprise, surprise.
They're going to use the fact that Renhao is here, and they have much stronger solo lanes to start this one off. Still no vision coming in from FAK Esports, so they don't know that this one is happening. Does look like they're going to go for the cross-map trade instead of contesting right here. And with the top lane so low, do you think this one is still going to go top, or are they just going to bring it somewhere else? Let's see.
I mean, given that turret plates have fallen, I would certainly like them to turn their attention to somewhere else. And it looks like they will just immediately turn their eyes towards that mid lane. They should be able to break both mid and top tower tier 1, which is going to be a nice burst of gold, and more importantly, it's kind of the first time they've been able to get any semblance of map control for themselves.
You have the Everfrost here by Pretender. Second charge will go down, and here seems to be the engage, but Kurt drops into Mininar mid-jump, and he doesn't take the full journey right there, and I think very wisely decides not to. In the meantime, we have a free push of Aphelios. Side lane Aphelios, best Aphelios, as he gets an extra tower, actually, in the bot side, without anyone noticing.
Yeah, it ends up being a 2-for-2 trade, although MFT, because they know that AD carry is in that bottom lane, they're just going to force their way onto this tier 2.
Is a teleport being channeled right here. They will force their way onto this second tier 2 tower. But with those HP bars, it does mean Frank is in hot pursuit. They should have control over this Drake pit going into it. Yeah, and we only have TP on Wen in this fight, so if Taco goes back, he can't come back to the fight, so he's gonna stay around here. And
yeah,
the angle for MFT, are they really comfortable of giving a third Drake? It's not the third, it's the second, but still, yeah. The Drake stack for Frank it's pretty strong at this point.
And Hextech Dragon is pretty good for them, right? Because you just get more spell rotations coming in for this LeBlanc. She just gets more and more opportunities to poke around with QW, QWE, that sort of just coming over walls and just chunking you out. And then the extra attack speed is, of course, very, very helpful for a champion like this Aphelios. So all in all, not a bad trade. MFT, they overforced that mid lane tower take, and because of that, their back timings just kind of match up with right when FAK Esports want to go ahead and take Dragon, so they just get it for free.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In that sequence, it seems like Frank actually came out the winner. They essentially got an extra TP and an extra Drake throughout the entire trade. Aphelios equalized on the towers, and they get to roll into an earlier Hextech Soul stack, potentially. So, once again, we have talked about this in the past, but MFT definitely one of those teams where they can be a little bit wobbly when it comes to mid-game macro and lane allocations. So far, MFT still not getting all the fights that they want to. I feel like with the strength in 665 and Taco, they're definitely edging for fights. Pretender flies in, nearly takes down. 665 is just dead with the CC combo. Great distortion over the wall right here.
Good turn.
MFT are looking to put
Eminem's really strong. Green-white.
But it seems like this is just a desperation play for revenge. They're leaving Taco out to dry. Let's see if Taco can't survive right this. Hextech Soul into the cutoff. They will find Whale over the wall here. M&M still holding on to Moonlight Vigil. There he goes. They miss out. Featherstorm goes up. And MFT actually make the miraculous retreat here when going back in. And no, he just gets
Kurt's here now, though.
By Pretender. Oh, Kurt goes in for the 3-man against the wall. And that's the entire team of Meta Falcon being wiped away, just melting into the Aether. And Frank Esports find themselves a new Baron.
It's right in time for the Baron buff, Clement. Frank Esports, they just take full advantage of MFT overextending, and now 665. I don't think he can look for a steal here. He has a flash available, but okay, he finds one, but that's it. It is still Bruiser Nocturne, so he can't 1v5 very easily.
We're going to be taking a replay, look at the replay here, but I'm not really
Starts
sure
out
why...
with 665.
I'm not really sure why MFT actually chased this. They lost one member, and that doesn't look like a winning position to me whatsoever, and they still chase.
Right here in this choke, that is basically where the fight was done. Because against green-white Aphelios, you just can't push past it. Because of the turret is just going to load up on damage, and then you're already too far gone. Because the Hextech gates exist, it's just a fast, easy rotation for Frank Esports. They hurt him under their tower, and now Kurt, well, he has Meganar. And it helps that Wen isn't there for the rest of the dive too, because the Trouble Bubble could have potentially thrown a wrench in that plan.
Yeah, you could see the pings that they knew the Gnar was coming, but I feel like Wen definitely overstayed that one. Kind of a weird chase for MFT. We are going to have another fight and another TPP use. Featherstorm already off for Whale. He does not get the Blade Caller to stick Pretender underneath their own tower. They will lose this in the ensuing Baron push. Things are looking... it's kind of bleak for MFT. The map is wide open. You're not going to get your two-man game with the Nocturne anymore. And M&M is also quite fed in this game. How are they going to make it out of this bind?
Yeah, it's definitely not looking very pretty here for the side of MFT. Pretender, he's put onto side lane allocation. And he will be able to shove that side in as they prepare themselves for this next dragon in 30 seconds. Pretender does have that teleport, so you're not concerned about that. And Kurt already in the vicinity anyways. So MFT, at the very least, you know, they're all here. Although Wen is backing.
He does just about have his TP up.
Okay.
In terms of the itemization there, we just saw that Pretender is actually a full item ahead of Wen. So Wen pretty much has to get this purchase in before the Drake, or he has no threat. Even walking through Fission, I don't feel like the carries on the side of Frank Esports are really afraid of him at this point, with only 1.5 items being completed here.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see a bit of a trend with what Wen wants to pick. It's all these champions that can shove the wave early on to make sure 665 doesn't get collapsed upon in his jungle during the early game. But then his mid-game execution kind of falls to the wayside. He's not quite on top of lining up either the back timing or his rotations. And now it's going to be a 5v4 for the time being.
Here comes the Paranoia and the TP. They do catch out K2 though, but he's only the support. And Kurt once again finds a massive two-man Gnar ultimate onto the sidewall. When trying to run away, Viego coming in. Low HP bars all across the board. Polo goes forward to find the Winter's Bite and will get another kill. Another wipe coming in for the side of Frank Esports. They lose one and get 3 plus the Hextech Drake.
Man, an MFT, they just get absolutely bodied. in that fight. Now, the other thing with Zoe is that she needs to be there at the start of the fight, right? Because she needs to find those early trouble bubbles to get targets chipped down, because if the fight starts right off the bat, you 100% lose that every single time. You need to play these fights a lot slower, but when you have champions like a Silas and a Nocturne, they kind of just want to force the issue. And that's exactly what happens here. MFT, they just go before the Zoe's ready to do any sort of damage, and the pace of the fight is just not in MFT's favor.
Eminem practically untouched throughout all of that fight. He now has a 300 gold bounty on him. I feel like MFT, once again, the objective fights, we haven't seen them actually have good enough execution to pull one off yet this series. That was a fight where they were teleporting the Zoe in, as you said. There was no poke damage being done, and their target selection was also just kind of baffling. They actually had the inside track on that Drake. They had the vision control, and then they engaged on support Leona. I feel like some of that plan was kind of missing. The script wasn't right.
Yeah, now Taco, he could eat a big chunk of burst right there. Pretender already on, well, 3 items.
10 stacks too.
Yep, 10 Magi stacks, so a lot of damage coming out from him. And more importantly, when you do, of course, complete the Magi's, it's another proc on your Mythic. So that is just very cheap and efficient itemization if you are able to just get the upgrade on the Magi.
We do have the Moonlight Vigil coming in once again. Not going to use the Gravitum on that, actually just putting a little bit more damage. And we have FAK Esports kind of pushing MFT away at this point. Wen still trying to find damage, but Pretender by himself is pretty much out-damaging the poke that MFT can provide here. Once again, we're going to have a base defense situation, and in Game 1, this is where MFT started to shine. They found their footing in these 5v5s, where it isn't about rotations, it isn't about, TP timings, it's just about good old fisticuffs and going into the brawl. So maybe this is where MFT can find their comeback in this game as well. It doesn't look like FAK Esports are going to give them a chance, though, as they are just hovering around, waiting for that Baron that's about to come up in 20 seconds. Do you think Frank's actually going to push this, or are they kind of happy to just turn around?
Looks like they want to try and push their advantage here, and I think the big target on the side of MFT is Whale on the Xayah pick. If they overextend themselves a little bit too hard, this Xayah, with the amount of feathers she is able to lay out, along with the fact that it's lethality Xayah, she can still do a boatload of damage in these team fights, but unfortunately that's really the only champion that's going to have that sort of burst power. Yes, Taco, he's still going to get items, he's going to get stronger, but he's not quite at that point, and Nocturne is way past his expiration date with this build. And then unfortunately, like, Wen, even though he technically should be able to get more out of this Zoe, the play just hasn't quite lined up to give us that confidence that he can.
We'll see how MFT take this one. We do have the stopwatch being completed here by Eminem, so even if MFT do find him with the initial burst, it's unlikely to keep him down throughout the entire team fight. FAK Esports making a strong push into the red side jungle, and unfortunately for MFT, they just have to cede ground. We do have a split Drake and Baron situation. It's up to Frank to decide which one they want to go for, and it does look like the answer will be the Hextech Soul at this point. Pretender flying in, lands the Everfrost for some damage, and they are now going to head towards the bottom side of the map. Let's see if MFT are going to respawn and go for the team fight, or do they even have the potential to go for the Baron? Probably not. Pretender gonna fly in, find the chains, and here is the turnaround fight. Paranoia defensively being used, but he will still fall to the Moonlight Vigil from far away. Wen now trying to find the target. Pretender gets away with less than 300 HP, but he still stays alive. This could be the potential chance for MFT to find something, but Nem is just walking up, and he takes now nearly 2 carries by himself. MFT, they have to scatter in front of the Aphelios. Kurt, definitely presses the wrong buttons there as he meant to push 665 into the
Doesn't
team
matter.
composition. Doesn't matter, as you said. Pretender with the nice cleanup kill, and Frank
Think that's game
Esports
2.
with the statement. They're just going to close this one out.
Looks like we're going to get the same game time here as well. As 29.5 minutes. One last gasp, maybe.
Ooh, that's a great Blade Caller onto 3. Can they keep this fight going? Well, down to 200 HP. Eminem walking back to finish off Desire, and that will be game. Frank Esports with another dominating performance where they basically won every single team fight throughout this game.
And it's just the difference of execution coming in from Frank Esports over the side of MFT. And we talk about MFT as being that team fighting squad. Yes, their macro might not be the cleanest, but if they are able to find those 5v5s, that's when they can get those advantages. Unfortunately, like Frank Esports, time and time again, they get man advantages before the team fight happens, and even then, like MFT falls short in the execution on their rotations. And so far, Frank Esports just 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, if we really think about this game and the main turning points of it, it basically boils down to 2 team fights on the Drake and 1 team fight on the Red. And every single team fight, MFT were just not able to line together a cohesive engage. We saw them going in when they were like basically playing a 4v5, and they started out on K2s, Leona, and the other time I think, yeah, they started out on Leona twice. So it was just kind of baffling. I feel like MFT, once again, very similar to game 1, they had the tools, but not the calls to actually take it into effect.
Yeah, and going back to what we said at the start of the game, right? What was the game plan? Kill Kurt over and over again. What was the fallback plan? Well, I hope they don't fall behind, because if plan 1 doesn't work, then they don't have a plan 2. And plan 1 did work, but they still lost because they didn't have a plan 2 afterwards.
Yeah, do you think they could have done more with the Silas? He was definitely ahead in his lane, but at the same time, the bottom lane was also winning for Frank, and the mid lane was winning as well. Do you think maybe Taco could have done more from this game, or was it still more of the issue of just the team fights happening too quickly?
I feel like if Wen was on a more 1-3-1 focused champion, maybe a Twisted Fae or an Ahri, someone that can side lane, then you just move the Silas into the mid lane and you can kind of control the map playing off of your strong Silas, because he's able to make rotations over to the sides and influence the map a little more. But on the Zoe pick, it's very hard to move the Zoe into a side lane, and we know sometimes Wen does fall behind on the rotations if he gets tossed into a side lane. So it makes it very difficult for MFT to capitalize off of this very strong Silas pick, and as a result, they just really fizzled out.
This is definitely a little bit, taxing to see, I think, from our viewers' perspective. I personally had a lot of hopes for MFT. Like, we didn't really get to see the best of them just yet, I will say. Like, in the season, we saw them 2-0 Beyond Gaming. They had games that were actually pretty close against CFO in terms of getting all of their tools together, running forward as a team composition. What do you think needs to change here for MFT? Because I feel like... I don't mean in terms of like the comps. I feel like the comps have been fine, but just the shot calling just seems to be really off today for this young squad.
Yeah, I really just, again, like the rotations just quite aren't there yet. I'm not sure how the conversation is behind the scene between games as well. We saw this be a very big ailment in yesterday's games, right? Where Taco and Wen just weren't there for team fights on time consistently, especially Wen. So it's hard to imagine like Firefox, what he's able to do in the background to help when make these rotations a little bit faster. But Pretender, he will be the MVP of this game on this LeBlanc, taking full advantage of this mid lane matchup and really influencing the map kind of everywhere at once.
He was so good at just dragging MFT and preventing them from resetting properly, keeping them in fights that I don't think they wanted to stay around for. So great performance by him. You know, he was never caught out when he destroyed once. He was always able to go back, never just stun locked in place. So he was very safe and very pivotal at just making, I feel like MFT, a lot of their timings were just a mess because of what Pretender could do across the wall right there. So great job on him. And that does mean we are at game point. If FAK Esports can find the next one, they will move on in our lower bracket. So don't go anywhere. We're coming right back after the break.